Trapped in total darkness, one wrong step meant instant death. These are the most horrific, deadly falls in the world's most unforgiving caves that would send shivers down your spine. Let us dive into details. The 1952 Laverna Cave. Tragedy, deep within the limestone heart of the French Pyrenees, is a large and mysterious cave diver known as Laverna. It is part of the Pierre Saint-Martin cave system, a vast underground realm created by nature over millions of years. While its natural majesty is astonishing, it was the story of a perilous trip in 1952 that cemented this cave's place in the history of human discovery and tragedy. The story began a year before, in 1951, when three pioneering explorers, Haroun Tazieff, Marcel Lubin, and Georges Lepineur, set out on a mission to push the boundaries of human discovery beneath the Earth's surface. This was not just a caving expedition, it was a scientific adventure. Armed with ropes, film cameras, and sheer tenacity, they set out to investigate and capture one of the deepest chasms ever discovered. That year, Tazieff captured Georges Lepineur's courageous plunge down a tight vertical shaft, guided by ropes. This shaft, later dubbed the Gouffre Lepineur in his honor, fell 356 meters straight down, far into the grassy plains where Basque shepherds graze their sheep. At the time, it was regarded as the deepest vertical shaft known to man. The feat was monumental. It put the Pierre Saint-Martin Massif at the forefront, but no one could have predicted the carnage that followed. Just 1 year later, in the summer of 1952, the team returned, this time with more ambition, better equipment, and a stronger determination to delve further into the depths. Marcel Lubens, a great engineer and dedicated speleologist, was at the heart of this expedition. Calm under pressure and highly regarded, he was the type of man others trusted with their own lives. But fate had different intentions. On August 14, 1952, a calamity occurred. As the team prepared to pull Lubens up to the surface, after hours of frigid darkness in the cave, the line that held him snapped barely 15 meters above the bottom. In a moment, the adventurer fell to the cave floor. The blow crushed his jaw, fractured his spine, and rendered him comatose. A stillness fell over the squad, which no underground echo could break. Their comrade and teammate were broken in the depths of the earth. What followed was a race against the clock unlike any other. Lubens was not alone, even deep beneath. His companions, Occhialini, Labairi, and Tazieff, refused to desert him. They kept communication with the surface by stringing a flimsy telephone line through their cables and coordinated an urgent rescue mission. As the hours passed, a gathering audience gathered above. Military helicopters circled, French and international media arrived in waves, and the entire country appeared to be holding its breath. For 30 stressful hours, the rescue mission proceeded with steadfast conviction. A stretcher was cautiously lowered into the abyss, accompanied by Dr. Meret, a physician who volunteered for the potentially fatal drop. When he approached the injured adventurer, hope flickered. Though unconscious, Lubens clung to life. Dr. Meret made a risky decision. He would try a blood transfusion right there in the Earth's belly, trying to stabilize Lubens for the ascent. But the challenges were enormous. The shaft's rough, thin walls made lifting a stretcher almost impossible without bashing it against the sides. Lion scouts offered to descend and aid, creating a human lifeline in the darkness. They set up 240 meters of rope ladders and worked tirelessly to guide the stretcher uphill. It was a spectacle of incredible bravery and cooperation, driven by love, devotion, and an unwillingness to give up. But as soon as hope began to surge with the morning light above the earth, darkness took its place. Marcel Lubens died a few minutes after receiving the transfusion. His buddies, grieving and fatigued, made a heartbreaking decision. They were unable to get his body to the surface, so they buried him right there in the cave. For 2 years, Lubens was entombed in the earth he had hoped to investigate. Despite the sadness, the narrative of Marcel Lubens and the Laverna Cave became a symbol of fearless discovery rather than failure, of camaraderie in the face of peril, of the human spirit's yearning to explore the unknown, even if it means paying the ultimate price. Today, Laverna is more than just a geological marvel. It is a tribute to bravery, a lonely cathedral beneath the mountains, where echoes still tell of a man who dared to delve deeper. Curtain Pot Incident. Curtain Pot is one of the Yorkshire Dale's many hidden entrances into the earth, located beneath the wind-beaten slopes of Fountains Fell near Settle. A deep, narrow cave opening leading into an unmapped and hazardous network of subterranean channels, it serves as both a siren call and a test of will for cave divers. On June 1st, 2019, it was the location of a sad event that shocked the caving community to its foundation. Harry Hesketh, a seasoned and respected cave diver with years of expertise, went on an expedition into Curtain Pot with two others. They were exploring the cave as part of a recreational trip, drawn by the mystery and challenge of the largely unknown underground labyrinth. However, what began as an ordinary descent suddenly became a nightmare. Harry plunged over 20 feet, about 6 meters, into the cave, landing in a tiny and difficult-to-access region. The alert was promptly sounded, resulting in one of the greatest cave rescue missions in modern British history. The plea for assistance summoned nearly 100 rescue personnel, including volunteers from the Cave Rescue Organization, the Upper Wharfdale Fell Rescue Association, the Swaledale Mountain Rescue Team, and the Bradford Pothole Club. These were not amateurs. They were among the most experienced cave rescuers in the country. They responded quickly and cooperatively, mobilizing specialist teams and equipment under harsh physical conditions. The conditions inside Curtain Pot were harsh. Tight squeezes, precipitous drops, and unclear tunnels made every move a calculated risk. The cave had not been completely explored, so the rescuers had to feel their way forward, inch by painful inch in pitch darkness, freezing temperatures, and moist, cramped circumstances. Every step toward Harry was difficult to take. For 17 exhausting hours, the teams worked in shifts, traversing a maze of limestone and steep slopes, while working in tight vertical tunnels, barely wide enough to turn around in. Communication was challenging. Equipment had to be lowered and moved around tight corners. Medics, engineers, and experienced cave divers all worked together in a frantic attempt to reach Harry and stabilize him. For those who knew him, Harry was more than just another casualty. He was one of their own. His reputation as a skillful and cautious explorer made his fall even more surprising. As the hours passed, his chances of survival dwindled. The natural design of the cave, with its harsh inaccessibility, was just as dangerous as the ticking clock. Despite the valiant and painstaking efforts of the rescue teams, Harry Hesketh died from his injuries before he could be extricated. The loss struck hard. Volunteers who had toiled through the night returned fatigued, physically and emotionally spent, bearing the heavy load of a failed mission, not due to a lack of effort, but because nature had conspired against them. An inquiry later determined that Harry's death was an accident, recognizing the inherent dangers of cave exploration and the catastrophic outcomes that even the most accomplished adventurers can confront. The tragedy spurred broader debate about the dangers of unmapped cave networks and the necessity for updated surveys and safety precautions, particularly in regions as unpredictable as Curtain Pot. Despite the tragic circumstances, the episode highlighted something fundamentally human. Nearly 100 strangers, united by courage, solidarity, and a shared enthusiasm for exploration, risked everything to save a fellow adventurer. They braved darkness, fear, and tiredness, pushed themselves to their limits in a location where few would dare to go. Harry Hesketh's story is not only a somber reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the surface, but it is also a monument to the caving community's perseverance and fraternity. Curtain Pot still stands, silently reflecting the legacy of a man who loved the land beneath his feet and the incredible community that sacrificed everything to bring him home. Qua de Alpazat Incident. On March 15, 2004, 6 expert British cave divers ventured into the Qua de Alpazat, located in Mexico's remote Huasteca region. Members of the Combined Services Caving Association, they were all current or former British Armed Forces members who had been taught, disciplined, and experienced in traversing underground labyrinths. Their mission was straightforward: travel to Camp 1, complete survey work, and then return. The weather was moist but not threatening, and the team had been researching the cave system for years. They were aware of the flood hazards and had prepared by bringing radios, food, and emergency supplies. However, nothing could have prepared them for what happened next. By March 17th, tragedy had hit. Heavy rain had flooded the entrance, trapping them inside with rising water. The surface crew alerted them over the radio, and the men stayed calm at first. They were trained to deal with delays. But as the days went by, the cave became unfriendly. The water continued rising, the air became moist, sleep became uneasy. Food rations were reduced to the absolute minimum. The muscles weakened. Fear crept in. On March 23rd, the team had been stranded for more than a week. The air reeked of perspiration and stale wetness. Anxiety increased as radio communication became less regular. Outside, Mexican rescue forces attempted to assist, but the submerged tunnel required professional divers, which only Britain could supply. Eventually, British rescuers Rick Stanton and Jason Mallinson arrived. On March 25th, they made their move. The flooded tunnels were dark, small, and dangerous. After hours of trudging through water and rock, they arrived at Camp 1. The captive soldiers were taken out one by one through submerged hallways in a harrowing, breath-holding escape. After 9 hard hours, the entire squad emerged, alive. But the nightmare had not ended. As the cameras flashed and officials closed in, the situation became political. The Mexican government detained the team due to concerns about their military ties and radon equipment. Accusations flew. Were they spies? Are there any illegal miners? Despite the lack of evidence of misconduct, the cave divers were interviewed, charged with not having licenses, and expelled from Mexico. An international controversy has started. Back in the UK, some praise them as heroes, while others question their decisions. The storm passed, but for the 6 men who had braved deep darkness and global scrutiny, the scars of Qua de Alpazat would never really heal. The New River Cave Incident. It was January 18, 1980, a harsh winter evening in Giles County, Virginia. Laura Sherback, her husband, and a few pals set out with excitement in their eyes and camping gear in tow. Their goal is New River Cave. It had long been a favorite destination for amateur cave divers due to its twisting limestone passageways and breathtaking natural structures. There were no ropes or steep climbs, only crawling, climbing, and maneuvering through nature's subterranean masterpiece. To the group, it seemed like the ideal place to spend the night underground. However, caves have a way of drawing people in with their beauty, only to remind them how brutal they are. As the group entered the cave at about 7 p.m., the atmosphere was electric with excitement. They pushed deeper into the damp, echoing passageways, cold air biting at their skin, boots scraping against centuries-old rock. For 2,000 feet, it was the kind of adventure they were looking for. Tight hallways, echoing chuckles, and the thrill of the unknown. Then they came to a narrow stretch known as the blowhole. The blowhole was a section where the floor became slippery and dangerous. Centuries of dripping water had sculpted out weird, beautiful designs in the limestone, but it also left razor-sharp edges and uneven ground. Laura, enthusiastic and unskilled, tried to climb through this portion. Her hands and feet braced against the moist, sloped rock as she hoisted herself up. But one fateful moment, her boots slipped. She lost control. Time appeared to slow as her body fell only a few feet, but it was enough. Beneath her, a sharp limestone formation jutted from the cave floor like a blade. She landed forcefully with her legs stretched apart. The sharp rock pierced her lower abdomen with devastating power. A horrible thump rang through the cave, followed by a cry that would haunt the tunnels forever. Laura slumped in agony, blood flowing through her garments as her body convulsed with pain. The fall had torn through sensitive tissue in her pelvic and vaginal region. The destruction was severe. Her friends ran to her side, peeling back her clothing to inspect the injury, and were faced with a horrible sight: shredded flesh, exposed muscle, and a swiftly spreading pool of blood. Shock began to take hold. Laura's limbs twitched violently. Her breathing came in short, irregular gasps. Her skin became pallid. The cold of the cave began to fight against her weakening body, forcing her into hypothermia. Her friends pulled off her wet clothes and placed her into a sleeping bag, hoping to keep what little body heat remained. 2 of them dashed into the swirling darkness, determined to reach the surface and shout for assistance. Once outside, fear set in. The men had taken detours, slipped through twists and dead ends. They could not remember the exact route back to Laura. Each tunnel looked the same. Minutes turned into hours. Laura's condition deteriorated once she returned underground. Her pulse became weaker. Her body began to shut down due to blood loss. Her once harsh shouts faded to whispers, then silence. The Giles County Rescue Squad finally received word at 11 p.m. Expert cave divers from the VPI grotto were brought in. They recognized the cave. However, they made slow progress. They crawled, climbed, and squeezed their way through the dangerous cave, knowing that each passing minute was a risk to Laura's life. When they arrived, she was nearly unconscious. Her body became ice cold, and her lips turned blue. Severe hypovolemic shock had developed. Her organs were failing one by one. There was not time to squander. They cleaned her wounds and administered fluids into her veins. Then came the hardest part: getting her out. She was placed in a Stokes litter, which is a stretcher built for tough rescues. But getting her out required squeezing through jagged passageways, crawling over rocks, and transferring her corpse hand to hand like a fragile glass sculpture. Every bump and jostle sent new waves of excruciating pain across her body. Her eyesight was clouded. She slipped in and out of consciousness, locked in a nightmare she could not shake. At one point, the rescuers fashioned a human conveyor line by lying flat in a column to get her through a crawlway that was too narrow for standing. Laura was finally rescued from the cave's cold hold at 5 a.m., 9 hours after she had fallen. She was taken to Montgomery County Hospital, where a trauma team was ready. The injuries were horrific: internal injury, extensive blood loss, and ripped tissue. But she was alive. The horror of that night would never leave her. All from a slip, a fall of just a few feet. But that is the danger of caves. Their beauty hides blades, their silence hides screams, and one wrong move can turn wonder into trauma. This story is a chilling reminder. Underground nature shows no mercy. Parisburg cave accident. In January 2024, a horrible event occurred deep in the forest outside Parisburg, Virginia. Autumn Nicole Draper, a 38-year-old Fairlawn resident, died after falling into a lonely cave. On January 12th, the Giles County Sheriff's Office received a scary 911 call. Autumn had fallen nearly 100 feet into the depths of a cave. The setting was tough, the terrain was harsh, and every second counted. Within minutes, an emergency response was launched. The Selco Emergency Response Unit collaborated with the highly skilled Blacksburg Rescue Squad's Technical Rescue Cave Unit. These were experts educated to navigate the most dangerous underground settings, risking their own lives to save others. As daylight went and temperatures dipped, the team proceeded into the cave, weighed down by a sense of urgency and hope. Despite their brave and quick actions, the conclusion was devastating. Autumn Draper was pronounced dead at the spot, as her injuries were too serious to survive. The incident caused ripples of anguish throughout the community. Autumn's friends and family remembered her not only for the tragedy that took her life, but also for the brightness and energy she brought to those around her. The rescue teams, despite being unable to change the outcome, were praised for their bravery and perseverance under harsh conditions. The Parisburg cave event serves as a sobering reminder of the hidden perils lurking beneath the Earth's surface, as well as the heroic humans who respond when disaster strikes. It also serves as a reminder of how fragile life is and how quickly things may change. This terrible story demonstrates the courage of first responders and the legacy of a life taken far too soon.